Welcome to Center for Spiritual Living, Port Angeles, on a very warm Thursday evening. Unusual for this part of the world, but here we are. Brought California with me, including the fires, I guess. There's some interesting smoke happening in the sky, but you know, it's an interesting life. It's an interesting day. And we are in a new month, and so we have a new opening song and a new closing song. I invite us in our opening song, Love is in Everything I Do, Love is in Everything I See, Love is in Everything I Am, Revealing Thee, that we use that time to slow down, let go of the day, get ourselves fully present right here and right now. Love is in everything I do. Love is in everything I see. Love is in everything I am. Revealing Thee. Revealing Thee. Love is in everything I do. Love is in everything I see. Love is in everything I am. Revealing Thee. Revealing Thee. Love is in everything I do. Love is in everything I see. Love is in everything I am. Revealing Thee. Revealing Thee. Love is in everything I do. Love is in everything I see. Love is in everything I am. Revealing Thee. Revealing Thee. Love is in everything I do. Love is in everything I see. Love is in everything I am. Revealing Thee. Revealing Thee. Revealing Thee. Take a breath. Let it go. Thank you. I felt like one extra. This is our reading of our vision and our mission. We added a line to our vision, so I invite us to say this together if you choose. Our vision. We are an open, safe, creative, and affirming spiritual community where we experience divine love and connection every day. Our mission. Through spiritual, artistic, and social gatherings, we experience and express divine love. Our intentions create ripples of compassion into the world. Thank you. A few announcements. We have the Open Men's Circle on the first and third Saturday, which means it's this week. So if you are a man, we invite you to this really sacred space where you can step into the authentic nature of your being with other men. So that is facilitated by Uric, and it is the first and third Saturday from 10 a.m. until noon. We have a workshop coming up, our last one of our summer series, on August 9th. That's Workshop Wednesday, facilitated by me. The focus will be on relationships, looking at relationships in a fun, light, interactive way, all kinds of relationships, and maybe seeing something new that we haven't seen before about the way we operate in this world of relationships. And then we have our Women's Wisdom Group coming up on the second Saturday of the month, and that's from noon until 2 p.m. this month. I invite up Shirley Grace for our opening reading, our brief period of silence, which I will bring out with the crystal bowl, and then a lovely affirmative prayer.
Ernest Holmes, the founder of Science and Mind and Spirit, writes in Living the Science of Mind, realizing that I am one with all people, I affirm that there is a silent power flowing through me and them, which blesses and heals and prospers, makes happy and glad their pathway. I invite you to join me in a moment of silence as we anchor that into our beingness. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am. The great I am, which we call God, Spirit, creative energy, universe, and many, many other names, is still just that energy that created and is all that is. That which is love. That which is compassion. That which is harmony. That which is peace and joy. And knowing that God is all there is. And I am that. I step forth in knowing for myself and for each one present, each person everywhere. I am, we are compassion. I am, we are love. I am, we are peace. I am, we are joy. And being all those qualities of God, we show up in the world being God's hands, showing God's heart. And we walk in compassion, beginning with compassion for ourselves, compassion for other people, compassion for animals, compassion for the planet. What a wonderful knowing that we are God in action. And as we show up, embodying those God qualities, we bless the world. I give great good thanks for this truth, and I release it into the law, which acts on my word and brings it into manifestation right here and right now. And so it is.
And so it is. Thank you. That's beautiful. So we're going to kind of do a creation song.
Worldwide debut.
Worldwide debut. Sit. So we're going to have a particular melody and rhythm that's going. I invite you to stay in that if you choose. And if something else shows up for you as an alternative descant or another melody, throw it in. So, as I mentioned,
let the peace come in, let the peace come in. Peace, 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 let the peace come in, let the peace come in. Peace, 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 let the peace come in, let the peace come in. Peace, 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 let the peace come in, let the peace come in. Peace, 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 let the peace come in, let the peace come in. Peace, 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 let the peace come in, let the peace come in. Let the peace come in, let the peace come in. Peace, 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 let the peace come in, let the peace come in. Peace, 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 let the peace come in, let the peace come in. Peace, 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 let the peace come in, let the peace come in. Let the peace come in, let the peace come in. Peace, 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 let the peace come in, let the peace come in. Peace, 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 let the peace come in, let the peace come in. Peace, 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 let the peace come in, let the peace come in. Peace, 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 let the peace come in, let the peace come in. Peace, 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 let the peace come in, let the peace come in.
It's like a love triangle.
Love, 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 let the love come in, let the love come in. Love, 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 let the love come in, let the love come in.
How about some joy?
Joy, 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 let the joy come in, let the joy come in. Joy, 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 let the joy come in, let the joy come in. Joy, 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 let the joy come in, let the joy come in.
Let's bring it back to peace.
Peace, 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 let the peace come in, let the peace come in. Peace, 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 let the peace come in, let the peace come in. Let the peace come in, let the peace come in. Let the peace come in, let the peace come in.
Cool. So I've got a really lovely talk. And something that was coming to me all week long was this desire that I've been having for our gatherings to be more connected, more interactive. It's one reason we're in a circle tonight. So I'm going to talk about some of these concepts. And at some point, I'm going to ask what you think. Shocking. I'm going to ask you to contribute your knowledge, your wisdom, your questions, your curiosities, because we've got a lot of wise people here. A lot of people who've learned a lot of stuff over a lot of years, who some of us have been studying science of mind or unity or all world religions for a long time, and embodying and practicing this stuff in our own life. And so it seems wasteful to me to be the only voice in the room when there's so much wisdom out there. So, if you're willing to play with me, do so. And if you want to receive, that's good too. So anything that happens is perfect. I want to start there. Our new theme for the month is about love, compassion, and caring. So tonight we're focusing on compassion. Compassion in action. So compassion is great, but if we're not moving it into the world, it's just sort of a private sense in your beingness and does no good out in the world. It's covering our light with a bushel if we're not moving our action, our compassionate action, out into the world. Action just for action's sake, bless you, doing this just for doing this sake, that's a lot of expended energy for nothing. If we're having a strong intention of compassion as our cause, as first cause, in this philosophy we talk about first cause as being God, Spirit, the oneness, the impetus that started everything, that created the Big Bang, that created all of life from that very moment, that impulse, that creative flash. That was first cause. And everything comes from that. Compassion can be our first cause. It could be the place that we move from, that everything that we do comes from that first impulse of compassionate love, compassionate caring, compassionate kindness. Compassion means first for ourselves, for our foibles and our challenges. In studying cause and effect, which is really what we're talking about here, every effect has a specific and predictable cause. We may not be able to see it if we're not far enough back from it. We were talking earlier, Joel and I, about the planets and the stars and how everything in the universe is in perfect alignment in some divine order, but we can't possibly understand that. It's way too big for us. It's way too big for our human understanding. But there is a cause back of all of that. There is a purpose and an order, divine order, happening through all of that. So every effect has a predictable cause, a specific and predictable cause, and every cause has a specific and predictable effect. Buddhism talks a lot about this, and I like the way Buddhism frames it. It says that cause plus the condition creates the effect. And they used the beautiful example, much like Ernest Holmes has, of planting a seed. They said, you plant a piece of rice, that's the cause, the planting of it, and the condition is what kind of soil is it in, and how have we taken care of that seed, how have we watered it, nurtured it, given it all that it might receive for its best effect to come out as a result. If we plant the very same seed and the condition that we planted into is less than optimal, we see the effect of that. So we can maybe not do a whole lot about our causes consciously. We can try, and in this philosophy, and I know for sure in Unity, we do a lot of work discovering what are our personal root causes, what are the hidden beliefs, ideas, and concepts that we may not be aware of are the causes of the outcomes in our life. And we can sure as heck do something about our conditions, even when it doesn't look like it. We can't do anything about the weather today, but we can wear clothing that is more appropriate for this weather. We can adapt to the conditions we are in. And many times we can adjust the conditions that we're in. We can do more or less of something and shift the conditions of our life. I can focus more on what's present instead of what I perceive as missing. That shifts a whole lot of stuff in my life. If I'm focused on what's wrong instead of what's right, that shifts the conditions of my life markedly. That then becomes an effect. Does that make sense? So let's talk a little bit about compassion as a cause, or this whole idea of cause and effect. How does that show up in your own life? where is someplace that has resonated with you, where you can see clearly how that applies. Because sometimes it's murky, and we can't always see exactly, well, what's the cause behind this effect that seems to be going on? What's the cause behind my sore back or the condition of my life? So, anybody have a story or an example or something where they can say, oh, I can see where there was a cause in my life and I can clearly see the effect that had on what showed up. Do we have a thought about that or an idea about that? There's no test. There's no right or wrong answers. Or do you believe in cause and effect? That's an interesting question to contemplate. Do I even believe in it? Or do I think that, the winds of chance are blowing around, fluffing me hither and thither like a will-o'-the-wisp, and I have no responsibility there,
Will here. I have noticed that over the last 2 months, my physical body has changed. My activities have been markedly different, and it seems in concert with that, my body has changed. It's smaller and tighter.
It's a lovely thing. So the cause is, I have a consciousness of moving more. The condition is you got a job where you're working really, really hard physically, and the effect is leaner and more toned, right?
Yes.
And so there are lots of times where we have a big impetus or a cause, I'm going to change my life, I'm going to get into shape, and then we still eat like crap, and we don't do any exercise, and then we wonder why our effects aren't changing. Well, I've been thinking about it really hard. I've had a strong intention about that, but we don't see any effect there. We haven't changed our conditions to match the cause to see the effect. That's good, that's a good example.
You were saying that we have more difficulty adjusting our cause, and we work hard to find it, but the effects the conditions are the manipulatable
So
aspects.
often, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, and so are the causes when we can begin to unearth them.
I get that.
I'm gonna kind of delve into that.
Reminds me of my friend had a baby, and the baby had some complications in its digestion.
Mm.
They had to actually have surgery as a little baby to make it work. The dad, my friend, said, well, he's just got to get organized. And I kind of like that, because it's like getting organized. It sort of speaks to the idea of manipulating your conditions.
Yeah.
Once you find that everything's organized, then everything flows the way it's supposed to. I've never forgotten him saying, you just got to get organized. And I find too, if I get organized, I'm working on a project. By the time I get to the end of the organization process, the project is almost already done.
Yeah, I love that. I love that saying. Just gotta get organized. Because if we're disorganized, it's hard to figure out what the cause and effect and conditions really are if we don't lay them out. I've done lots of times helping people tidy their house and get organized. I had a brief flash of a business called Divine Order, but what I would do first is literally take everything out. I would dump out the closet, I would dump out the desk drawers, I would dump out every cupboard, and we would spread it all out so we could see what we got to work with. And that's just like us. We've got all these hidden cupboards and that, oh, I forgot I stuck that in that cranny in that little corner in the attic, in the basement. I forgot that stuff was there. So in order to be organized, we have to pull it all out. See, what do we actually have here to work with? What do I want to keep? What do I want to let go of? And what do I want to donate? What can somebody else use better than I can? Maybe I've got some thoughts somebody else can do something with, but maybe I'm not doing anything with them. So I need to let them go. It's for somebody else to pick up along the race consciousness line. But there's a whole lot of stuff that I could just, send over to the recyclables and let go of. Maybe to be transmuted into something good. I love that. Just gotta get organized. That's really cool.
And another thought that I heard from someone years ago is, aside from what you do with your intention, your cause, is you also allow things to work as they should rather than interfering constantly. And the example that was given was humorous, which is why I remember it, is that if you go into a restaurant and you place your order, and every couple of minutes you're sending the waitress to go grab the order from the kitchen to come back, bring it to the table and make sure it's right, you are not going to be getting your meal anytime soon.
Exactly. Yeah, my favorite analogy of that is you plant the seed and then you keep digging it up. Are you growing yet? Are you growing yet? It's never going to grow. It has no space to do the work that needs to be done in darkness, in secret, kind of. We can't always know the best workings of the divine in our life. We think we know. Oh, we think we know. I know exactly how this should unfold. I know exactly how this should be for my best good. We don't. So we've got to let that work happen in the dark, in the quiet, in the peace, in the unknown realm, and then that effect will show up often way more unexpectedly than we could have ever thought. That dish will come out and like, I didn't even know I ordered this. It's so amazing. It's a great thing. So the other point that I have is, this life idea that life is a mirror, that it reflects back to us whatever we put into it. And that runs through every spiritual philosophy, that idea. What we put out is what comes back. As you believe, so it is done. What you put out is what comes back to you. So what is our cause? What are we putting out? So I'm going to give you a list and see if any of these resonate. Or you can identify that, oh yeah, I haven't looked at that particular realm of cause in my own life. So we've got decisions. Those are causes. I'm going to go right or left at this corner. That's a cause for what unfolds after that. We have habits, ingrained habits we don't even think about. The way I brush my teeth, the way I comb my hair. Those are deeply ingrained habits that we have. Beliefs, we get to unearth them. We have values we may not even know we have. I discovered quite a while ago when I was doing some abundance work that I had placed a value on poverty. Spiritual people don't need money. Well, I know in my head that's a silly thought, but I didn't recognize that it was a value that I was carrying around with me until I dumped it out of the closet and threw it out on the floor and went, oh, well, there you are. I didn't know you were there. Emotions are a cause. If I'm being reactive or I have a lot of spiky energy, I can see clearly how that affects me and how that affects those around me. My dog can tell when I'm upset or tense. There's some vibration that's happening. Even if I don't think I'm putting that out there, my dog can tell. If I'm crying or really upset about something, she's all up in my business. Like, what's going on? Are you okay? Very, very savvy in the realm of energy are our pets. We've got these things called meta-programs. So I looked up that word because this was a list I found earlier, and I went, oh, so what exactly is a meta-program? Let's dive into what that is. It's mental processes which manage, guide, and direct other mental processes. Meta means higher than, or above, or on top of. So metaphysics is above the physical. So when we study metaphysics, we are not just studying the physical world, but we are studying what's beyond that. So meta programs are those programs that are operating at a higher level than all of our other programs. And so if we don't know what they are, they're going to run us instead of us being a choice with them. Psychological rules, behaviors, actions, all of these are causes in our life. So think about maybe some decisions you've made or some habits that you have or beliefs or values or emotions, behaviors, actions that you do that maybe subvert a stated intention that you have. I have the intention to do X, but I notice I don't do it. And maybe it's a belief, or maybe it's a habit, or maybe it's, so let's talk a little bit about that. I definitely know I have an intention to get up a little earlier than I currently get up, because I'd like to have more day in my day. and I notice that that requires me to go to bed earlier, and I have all kinds of reasons and excuses why that doesn't work for me. Oh, I could go to bed at 10, but I just lay there wide awake because I'm a night person, blah, blah, blah. Which means I don't get up until 8. Oh, I need to have 8 or 9 hours of sleep because it's all broken up and I don't sleep solidly, so I need more than just 6 or 7. I need 8 or 9 because it's blah, blah, blah. So I keep having a stated intention that I want to be up earlier, to have more day in my day, and then my actions do not reflect my intention as much as I keep shifting there. So somewhere there's beliefs. Clearly, I've said a couple of them. The belief that I'm a night owl, the belief that my sleep is always broken up. I've got a whole raft of reasons, logical though they may be, fact-based though they may be. And if someone came to me in a counseling session and said, well, I've got all these reasons why my life isn't working, I wouldn't let them get away with that. So why do I let myself get away with that? So any thoughts about it, all of that I just laid out there for you?
I'm extra sneaky with myself.
Oh, that's a good, extra sneaky with ourselves. Yes, we are. We're very, tell me more about what that means for you.
I don't know, maybe I suspend reality with myself where I don't in the real world.
Ah, so like you think it's going to be this, but it's really not
It's
that?
never, ever possibly going to be that. Yeah, I do think it's going to be that.
Gotcha.
But no, but I really, I would think about it, it's going to be that way, and then it's not.
It's just never going to be that way.
Probably never would be that way.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah, and I think going along with that for myself, with the extra sneaky, is I don't really acknowledge what my habits are that might be getting in my way of, it's like, of course I'm doing everything right, and it's like I just don't, it's like I have blinders on to my own behavior.
So they're stored in the closet, or in the basement, or in that box we don't want to open. Yeah, well, that's good. That's good.
I don't get lost in Facebook ever.
No, never. Neither do I. Anybody else have examples? Yeah, Larry.
I had one years ago that was quite life-changing, actually. When I lived in Exeter, without a car, I was riding the bus to the center in Visalia. And I went over there for something during the daytime. And I'd had a lot of accidents and stuff in my life over the years. And I got off the bus. At that time, I walked with a walking stick all the time. Had for years. Had a stick that I walked with. And I started crossing the main street there, and as I got to where the curb, they had the slope down curves for wheelchair access.
Yeah.
There was a little lip about that high, and I caught it with my toes and went face first on the
Ouch.
sidewalk. And there was an ambulance sitting at the red light right there, and he had his window down. He says, "Are you okay?" And I had a flash through my mind right there. It changed my life. It says, I can lay here and have him come and still be a victim, or I can get up and go on my way and have everything be okay. And I said, I'm fine. And I walked to the center and I sat there for about an hour just getting my composure back, but it changed my life.
You got yourself organized.
Don't want that.
Yeah. Because it can happen just that quickly and easily. If we catch it, if we can become aware enough to catch the thought, I have a choice here. I have a choice here to be a victim or not.
Go to the hospital
And all the
all that
attendant
stuff.
drama. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. We constantly are at choice. There was a great thing I saw on Facebook last week. And it was a woman who talked about her life was just in the pit. How these stories always start, right? My life was at the darkest point. I was in bankruptcy, and I had liens on my house, and life was just terrible. And I didn't want to get up every day. Just did not want to get up. So she kept hitting the snooze button every single day, time and time and time again, over and over and over. Just did not want to get up because she knew the minute she got up, she'd have to face her life. She said, I saw on TV a rocket ship blasting off. And they did 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, blast off. And just like you said, she had this she said, that's it! She said, when that alarm goes off, I'm going to say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, blast off, and I'm going to get out of bed. She said, I never hit the snooze button again. And I use that every time I want to make a decision, this or that. I've made a commitment to myself in the last couple months. I don't eat after 8 o'clock. And I notice at 9 o'clock I want something to eat. Oh boy, do I want something to snack on. Because my story has been, well, I get really hungry 9 or 10 o'clock at night, and I get really hungry about 3 in the morning, and I can't sleep if I'm really hungry because my stomach is like going, rah, and it's eating itself, and I just get hungry. Clearly, I have enough fat stores for the winter, so that's not the truth. But I made this commitment, and every time when I want to make that choice to eat something, I have this moment. Well, here you are again. You're at choice. Are you going to eat something or not? So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, blast off. I don't. And I've been seeing a different effect in my body, in the way that I feel, and I haven't died yet. So something must be working about that. But I love this idea of it just takes 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. By the time we've done that count, our brain's objections and all of our lists of reasons become invalid. And then we just do the thing we're supposed to do. We just do it. Instead of, I don't feel like it, it's going to take 20 minutes. My mom had a great example years ago. She said she hates to mop the kitchen floor, just hates it. Something about it. And her kitchen floor was not very big. Maybe, the size of this half of the carpet to about right here. It was, because there was an island, and really the surface was not large. But she's like, getting out the mop and the bucket, and it takes forever. So one day she said, I'm just out of curiosity, I'm going to time myself. How long does it take from the moment I say I'm going to mop the floor to get out the stuff and put it away, do it and put it away? She said it took me 10 minutes. And yet I would fash about it, she told me, for hours. I should mop the floor, but I don't want to, and I'll go do something. I should mop the floor. So spending all this time shooting all over herself. And she said, if I just do it, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, just mop the floor, done in 10 minutes, go on with my life. So, do we have any examples of that? Where we know what it is we want to do. We know the cause we want to implement in our life, but we notice ourselves constantly being pulled off of our intention. Does anybody have that experience? You don't even have to share it necessarily, because that might be too personal. But can you relate to that? Where you have this thing, I keep saying I want to do this thing. I keep committing to doing this particular thing, but something keeps knocking me off of that. So maybe this week we practice, and we just do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we just do it. Oh, meditating. I don't want to meditate this morning. I'd rather look at Facebook. I'd rather play with my dog. I'd rather do 37 other things. I know that my life goes better when I meditate on a regular basis. I know that for a fact. But there's so many other things I could do. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, sit down, put on my little music that I listen to, do my meditation.
I have something going on today that I don't understand why
Oh, cool.
or where it's going, and I think I'm being okay with it, but I backed out of the garage this morning and backed into a lamppost.
Oh,
Okay. Didn't really harm anything too much. I mean, there's a mark on the car, and the lamppost was leaning, and I put it back up again. So, okay, I go on my merry way. I go into town, driving the car, stop at the intersection. There's a truck in front of me, and he's pulled out to make a left turn. He's pulled out into the intersection a little ways, and all of a sudden he decides that he's going to back up.
oh,
And he backs up right into me and makes a hole in my car,
oh, jeez.
and then drives off.
Oh,
So what is it about backing up that is harmful?
Ooh, that's interesting.
It is, because
Huh.
as far as my conscious knowing is, I'm not intending to back up on anything. Yeah. So,
Yeah, that's an interesting thing to think about.
but two things in one day, it's like there's a message.
Yeah, there's something, now if it happens the third time, you know for sure something's going on there, right?
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
I can't make sense out of it because you fixed the lamppost, so, you know, I don't get why you got backed into.
Right.
Hit and run.
Yeah, it wasn't into quick karma.
I,
It was something else.
I don't think that they're related.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
that's a great thought, I
Yeah.
like that. Maybe they're,
Two things happen.
They're just two things that happen, yeah.
Because you were backing up once and someone else was backing up, so it's like, yeah, so it may not,
okay.
very well may not be.
He forgot to set the mailbox back up. Or the lamppost. You were the lamppost.
Hmm.
He backed into you, but he didn't set it back up.
No, he just drove off.
Yeah.
Hey.
That's his karma.
And a while back, one of my talks, I talked a lot about, you know, the only meaning to anything in life is the meaning we ascribe to it.
True.
Really. I mean, you know, we could say it's a sign or an omen from the... The only meaning to anything is the meaning we choose to give it.
Maybe it just happened.
So maybe it just happened, and it doesn't mean anything about you, except maybe
Maybe
being
you
a
want to get a
little,
new
a
car.
little more attentive to, you know, when you back up.
Have you been thinking about getting a new
Yeah, I
car?
have.
Ah, see, there's a cause under. I had several friends thinking about getting new cars, and then coincidentally, their cars got totaled by somebody else, so they had to get a new car. Whether that's related, I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
We can make up a good story.
We could, because after the fact, we can go back and go, oh, well, I can see that and that and that and that, how they lined up, but
Yeah.
not
I
always.
like your explanation.
It's just stuff that happened.
Yeah,
It is a coincidence,
yeah, it is.
but
And I didn't get upset very much. I mean, just a little bit. Put the lamppost back up. Could not believe that he just backed up and then drove away. But,
I'm glad you're okay.
Yeah, that's the
yeah,
main
me
thing.
too. I was
The truck wasn't in the driveway of the house with the lamppost when you backed into it? I mean, there's not like that connection?
No,
Okay.
no. Totally
Totally
somewhere else. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
I wanted to mention also that
Sure.
you were saying that meaning is something that we ascribe. I think judgment is as well,
Oh,
as far as good or bad.
oh, yeah.
Yes.
That's,
Things are just things. Events are just events. We're the one, you know, I love that Chinese story about, you know, is it good or bad? Yes. You know, it's both. It's whatever you choose. We can't know until this lifetime and 50 lifetimes from now that we can look back and go, okay, that, but even then, there is no good or bad except what we call it.
Right.
Except what we call it.
Just
I've had
is.
enough people in my life who've been diagnosed with, you know, quote, terrible illnesses, who've said, no, this was the best thing that ever happened to me. We can't know. It's what is the meaning that we choose to give to that thing.
This too is good.
This too is good, exactly. You know, there is good in the universe, and it can use me. How is it going to use me? What is calling us, and how can we begin to interpret our world differently? if I can begin to interpret my world, if we can begin to interpret the world differently, through a different lens, by dumping out all the beliefs and the, story and the habits and the whatever, so we know what they are, then we begin to reorganize ourselves and we begin to see our world differently. Oh, the world wasn't conspiring against me. There were just some things that happened that I interpreted to mean X, Y, and Z, and that's how I carried on forward in my life. Usually that interpretation happens when we're 2, 3, when we can't possibly have adult concepts, but we form a belief about how we are, about how the world is, and how we need to be in it in order to be safe. Or that we're never safe. Or, 50 other explanations. And we also have heard enough stories of people who grew up in very similar circumstances and had completely different lives because they chose to view their lives differently through a different lens. I had all this pain and turmoil. Well, so did I. My experience was the same. So why is one life different than another? The meaning, the compassion that we bring into our own life, the compassion that we bring to the circumstances of our life, the compassion that we bring to the relationships in our life. That shifts how we begin to interpret our world in a different way. There was a little article I read about Mother Teresa, and somebody had asked her, how did you ever minister to the 100,000 people that were on the streets? She said, I didn't minister to 100,000 people. I ministered to one, and then one, and then one. That's all. So if we're talking about compassion in action, again, it has to start with one. It has to start with us. We begin to become more compassionate with ourselves, with our mistakes, our foibles, discovering what's in our closet that we need to bring out into the light so we can see it and have compassion for it. Wow, I didn't know I believed that. Wow, I didn't know that was my operating system up until now. And now I can choose or have a different idea and look at it differently. And then we can begin to step out in the world. My mom for years has volunteered for RSVP, retired, so I'm not going to get this right. I never get it right. It's retired people doing good work in the world, basically. And I volunteer now here in Clallam County for that. I drive somebody to the doctor frequently. And that organization started through an act of Congress. Believe it or not, they got some stuff done at one time. Back in the late 60s, there was a push to engage older Americans in valuable work. And that was when, once you retired, you were retired, you were done. So it really got rolling in 1971. And then it just grew and grew and grew in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of small local activities. And now there are millions of people who both serve and are served by RSVP. But they started with one. They started with a pilot program. They started small. They started with what can we do in our community that doesn't overlap what somebody else is already doing, or how can we support something that somebody's already doing. They did a lot of research, and the first year the budget was like $500,000, and then the second year it was $15 million, because they saw the immediate results of that activity. So when I volunteer for RSVP, because of my schedule, I drive one person to the doctor one time a week. One person. And I know that there's a ripple that happens from that. I know that when my mom drives somebody to the grocery store, and then to the other grocery store, and then to the other grocery store, because they have to get different things at each store, that's one person. But it happens again and again and again, and there's support and compassion in action that's happening every time someone volunteers their time. And there are millions of ways to volunteer. So when we say what's calling you, we can't do everything. We can't possibly do everything. We can do one thing. Maybe two. So maybe you like to work with kids. Maybe you like to work with seniors. Maybe you like to work with music. Maybe you like to paint. Maybe you like to help people clean their closets. You know, there's so many things. There's a woman that comes to our meditations regularly that works for the Hoarding Commission, or they have a better name than that. It's not Hoarding Commission.
Task force.
Task Force, thank you. The Hoarding Task Force here in Clallam County, they go to people's houses who have a challenge with being hoarders, whose houses are filled with stuff, and they don't just clean them up, they have counseling and behavior modification, because if you don't get to the cause, the root, you will never heal that particular condition. And so she goes and helps clean people's houses, clean out their stuff, but only after another spate of volunteers has shown up to do the inner work first. What a cool thing.
That my inner hoarder is like, I want to clean up these people's houses. Maybe there's some good stuff.
Yeah, I notice every time I help somebody clean their house, I come home with a box of things. But that's the great thing. As I said earlier, some we keep, some we let go of, some we put out into the world for somebody else to use. If it's sitting in the closet for 20 years and you're never enjoying it, bringing it into the daylight, using it, that energy is being wasted just sitting in that space. And that's the same with us. We all have things within us that are hidden, that are sitting on our shelf, getting dusty. And if they're not coming out into the world to be loved and used, well, we either got to get rid of it, make some space within us for something else to come through, or maybe find a new way to use it, a way to recycle and repurpose that thing that's been sitting on our dusty old shelf for a long time. One person, one activity, one compassionate action at a time. We can focus on that. We can do one thing. When I look at all the problems in the world, it becomes overwhelming. I can't tackle starvation. I can't tackle homelessness. I can't tackle a lot of the big problems in the world. And I can do one thing at a time. A friend had a thought when she was driving down the street in San Diego where there was a lot of homeless people, and she really wanted to do something, but she didn't have millions of dollars to throw out the window. So she started what she called the paper bag ministry. She got lunch sacks, and she would put a bottle of water, some protein, some clean socks, a treat like some applesauce, some baby wipes, a spoon, and she put them in a sack. She had a couple of them. She kept them in the back seat of her car all the time. And every time she saw somebody in need, she'd hand them a bag out the window. Tangible good. So that little seed of an idea she brought to our spiritual center that we used to go to in San Diego. It now became a ministry in our center. So once a month, there'd be a huge set of tables. People would construct their own bags. They would take home 2 or 3, donate whatever they wanted to keep the supplies going, and keep 2 or 3 bags in their car for the month and give them out. Now I know of many centers and many organizations that are doing this particular activity. Now, did she create that activity? Probably not. But there are these little waves of consciousness that come through in the world. There's many, many studies about inventions that have happened over here on one place in the in the world, and it simultaneously happened somewhere else in the world. That's been studied. So we know there's this wave of consciousness that is always flowing, and we dip our toe in and out of it all the time. And so her idea of paper bag ministry became the baggie ministry for somebody else, and so it all started happening. I see it all over Facebook now. Who knows where the first cause was? I don't know. But she acted on that. She did one thing. And that one thing led to a beautiful ministry that's still going on. And they've given out probably 6,000 or 10,000 bags by now. That's a lot. That's a lot of socks. So I want to read 2 quotes before we close. Ernest Holmes, this quote that Shirley so beautifully read. Realizing that I am one with all people, I affirm that there is a silent power flowing through me and them, which blesses and heals and prospers, makes happy and glad their pathway. So compassionate action means I pay attention to that silent power flowing through me and the other, the apparent other, who's not really the other, but is me, is you, is us. And then that compassionate action can flow through their life and maybe awaken something. You know, that guy in the ambulance didn't know that he changed Larry's life just by asking a question. He didn't know. We don't have any idea how what we do in the world ripples out. So we just do the best we can do. And another quote from the same book, Living the Science of Mind. I love this quote. If the philosophy of Christianity were lived, if the words of Jesus were actually practiced, wars would cease, unhappiness would cease, economic problems would be solved, poverty would be wiped from the face of the earth, and man's inhumanity to man, and then my parentheses, and all beings and the planet, would be transmuted into a spirit of mutual helpfulness. If I remember that I am my brother's keeper, then we have this attitude of mutual helpfulness that can ripple out from us. And then I don't have to hoard and gather everything so I have it and you don't. I know that I have enough. And I can share what I have. And then we all have enough. That is a possibility. Doesn't seem to be so right now. But in the infinite realms of possibilities, that is something that is occurring in a realm of possibility in this very moment. There is a world where actual Christianity is being practiced and lived, where wars have ceased, where poverty is not known, where all beings are sacred and have enough. We can envision that, and that can become a cause, at least right where we are, if nowhere else. Thank you for playing with me this evening. Thank you for being in the circle. Let's take a breath. In our insert of our program, there's an affirmation about 2/3 of the way down on the page. I invite us to say that together. On the other side. Yeah, there you go. It says, affirmation. I discover ways to express compassion in the everyday actions of my life. So this is our time for conscious giving. We practice this every week. This is part of that compassion in action. It is a way that we support the work of the center. So if you have a tangible gift that you're choosing to give, I invite you to place it on your heart. Just imbue it with all the compassionate love and action possible. Somebody's home. Clancy and Richard are home. Yay! I know they're here. It's exciting. So we're going to pass this and then we'll come back and we will do our conscious giving affirmation together. So I invite us to say our conscious giving affirmation together, also in our insert of our program. I am open to give. I am open to receive. I am grateful to be in the flow of life through and as me. And we're doing something a little new along with our circle. Before we sing our closing song, I'm going to invite anyone who has a prayer request who's willing or would like to speak it into the circle and just be witnessed by the group. And then myself and Shirley, and I'll pass it along to Clancy, we will do prayer upon this request all week long. So is there any prayer request? I have a prayer request for Richard, knowing his complete wholeness and health, and vitality is expressed right here, right now. And that his time with his family that's coming to visit this weekend is filled with joy and energy and passion and laughter. That's my prayer request. Anybody else?
Healing energy for Danny Osborne, who is Reverend Lynn's husband.
Uh-huh.
He's going through some heart and serious stuff, so he needs some healing energy.
Danny Osborne, healing energy. Great. Great. Anybody else? Thank you. So we have a new closing song, Part of Something Greater. Next week I'll have us, hold hands while we sing it. But right now we're learning it. So I'm still going to invite you to stand up. And we will sing this song together. Part of something greater, something so much greater. We are part of something greater. Part of something greater than any one of us could ever be. We are part of something greater, something so much greater. We're opening our eyes so we can see. We are all joined together in our hearts, in our minds, and in our souls. We are part of something greater, something so much greater than any one of us could ever be. We're gonna sing that again, just to anchor it in. We are part of something greater, part of something greater than any one of us could ever be. We are part of something greater, something so much greater. We're opening our eyes so we can see. We are all joined together in our hearts, in our minds, and in our soul. We are part of something greater, something so much greater than any one of us could ever be. Could ever be. Could ever be. Thank you, Joel. Thank you, Shirley. Thank you, everybody who came today. I'm grateful for your presence and your participation. I look forward to seeing you again. Bye.
Thank you.